Got a CS-490 here today. This is going to be my first shot at splitting the cases on a saw, other than an old home light I did before I was on YouTube. So this is a kind of a basket case project, but I've just been putting together parts, piecing together all the parts for the past couple months. No tripod today, so things are going to be a little shaky. Yep, you can tell it was well taken care of. Loaded up with nastiness. Gonna need to get that keyway out of there. One of the ways of doing that is a pair of side cutters. And right on out. And I didn't catch it on video, but that's about the easiest way to get them out most of the time. Some of the stuff is pre-loosened. Yep. I broke some of this stuff loose so I wouldn't have to fight it on camera. I did not break loose the clutch, so I need to do that or figure out how to. Nope, I was mistaken. I did break loose the clutch. I just had to stop the crank from turning, and it was only finger tight. All the parts for the oiler, wall pump, and again, just so nice and wonderfully clean. More clean. Working on getting the fuel tank off, which means you got to take these isolator mounts out. I think there's a screw back there somewhere. You got to hold together somehow. Yeah, I know it's not just friction fit. In order to keep everything straight, I'm threading a lot of these fasteners back in where they went. That just helps cut down on looking for parts and trying to figure out where some of these are, because they're all Allen head bolts on this saw. This is not, as far as looking at fasteners and being like, oh yeah, this one went there, it's not the most friendly for that type of putting stuff together. Now I'm kind of worried about finding that there's a case screw that I'm leaving behind or something. But what is really nice about working on Echo equipment is if you don't know how it comes apart, you can just type in Echo Part Smart on Google, and the first one will take you to all the IPLs. The IPL is Illustrated Parts List, but it'll show you kind of exploded views of different pieces of the machine. You just type in your model number, and then it sorts by serial number breakdown, and then you'd have a view of kind of how this thing goes together and comes apart. But right now I'm still working on getting the fuel tank rear handle assembly off. And you can see why I got these, I'm replacing these isolators too. They're shot. Just the view of more filth. Also going to have to replace this vent line in the tank, but that'll be nice to do nice and easy while that fuel tank is off of here. Fuel tank wasn't terrible to remove. There's some caps in the isolators that pop out and just gives you access to everything. But yeah, it is pretty nasty. I've got it down pretty bare bones based on what I can see. I see 3 case bolts here and 2 up front. So, gonna pop them out, throw the case splitter in there, push on it from this side, see if it wants to move. If it doesn't want to move, clean it all off and check again. Because if it doesn't want to move, then I'm missing a bolt somewhere. Here's the splitter setup. Let's start cranking on it, seeing what happens. Let me... Oh, now I'm throwing stuff everywhere. I wonder if there's a spot where I can set the phone that will catch all of this. Looks like it's starting to come apart. That pop is always either good or bad. That's either it's moving or you broke it. I'm hoping I didn't break it because I got too many new parts for this to want to buy a crankcase. Don't believe there's any bolts behind the oil pump, but we'll find out. That one's out. And are y'all still in frame? Kinda. It's actually moving. Let's take a look at the secrets within. Yep, looks like not seeing any damage to the magnesium. Boy, that is thin. That's surprising that these things can be that thin. Wow. And the side that's still got, so be careful with your bar studs. You don't ever if you strip them out, you got to split the cases to get the new ones in there. All this magnesium looks good too. And I'm replacing the bearings. They this saw, so the history on the saw, it died because it got ran without an air filter, and it just consumed so much dust and dirt. It wiped out all the bearings, the piston grenaded, and it was thrown away by the fella that dropped it off at the shop. I mean, if you run this through a shop, and really, even, you know, me getting special pricing on parts, I have as much money into this as just buying a 4910 off the shelf. That's kind of embarrassing, but doing it this way, you're able to string it out over a couple months versus just throwing down all the money at once on the counter. Sometimes it feels better to do it like this. I don't know why, but I just figured it's something new for me to play with. But that's pretty much it for here. All I got to do is throw the splitter on here, and it'll push out the crank, and then I have two empty halves. And there you go, cracked open like an egg. Just for reference, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in here. It does not look like it, or I do not have the proper camera angle. But when you're looking at a bearing, now my phone's throwing a fit. When you're looking at a bearing and you don't know whether it is ingested dirt or not, look inside the races. If the inside of that race is a dull color or rough, that bearing's no good. And you know, rolling this one around, you can feel a little bit of grittiness, but nothing super significant. The area that I might be able to show y'all better is the little end of the connecting rod. that should be a nice smooth color. Actually, let me grab the new crankshaft and we'll take a look at these two in comparison. Now it's showing better on camera, or now that they're next to each other. There is some heat. This little end of the connecting rod did see some heat. This is the new one, and if I can get a view in there, I'm trying, folks, bear with me. You see there's a little bit of cross hatching from machining, but inside of that rod there's no discoloration. It is all the same color all the way across. You may see a little bit of a wear pattern from that roller bearing running in there, but it should be consistent all throughout. Over here we get dull, I believe this is called spalling or embrittlement or something like that. It's just pretty much you ran sand in that bearing and it started eating away the surface finish of this. Most of this stuff is surface hardened, so there's a very thin layer of metal on the outside that's hard, and then it is at a hardness where it'd be stronger. So if you don't know, when you harden metal, it gets brittle. This is just a generalization. It's not always the case. But so since it's hardened, it's brittle, but also since it's hardened, it takes longer to wear out. Now, what they do in these cases is the outside will be hardened and the inside will be a different hardness than this outer surface. And since it's a lower hardness, it's generally higher strength. It's not as high of a wear resistance, but it's stronger as far as like tensile strength and whatnot, I think. That's simple terms. That's just how I have it in my head, and it's just a generalization, so don't take it completely to heart. I don't have a degree in metallurgy or anything like that, but that's, kind of sums it up. But bad, ugly surface finish in there. Brand new out the box. Looks nice and clean. And the star tool of the show, this was a Neotech case splitter I ordered on Amazon, and it was under $40. Worked fine for me. The only complaint I have is on this little nub here. Looks like it went crooked after the first use. Oh well. But there's supposed to be a grub screw. It didn't come with a grub screw, but for the price, not going to complain too bad. And I burnt up my damn french fries.